How's it going, guys? Today I want to talk about just the important perspective in the stock market. I think it's one of the most important things to look back on whenever you're investing. And I think that's something that's just important to stay grounded today. There's a lot of people getting swept up in their emotionals. There's a lot of emotional decisions going on. And I think if you react emotionally, I just don't think you should be investing in the stock market. What I find interesting about these dips is, first and foremost, when you look at this dip from this perspective, it barely even registers. And even if we zoom in, it's like we had a larger dip, back here in the first couple of weeks of August when you had that, I think it was like the yen carry trade or something that got unwound. We also had, dips here as well through April. Now, if we go back in time, whenever you look at the historical perspective of any stock, most of these dips back here, you don't even register. Like you're not even thinking about what happened here. But if you were sitting through this period of time, right, it might have seemed like the world was ending. At the end of 2018 here, right, if we kind of zoom in, you went from being up, 19%. What does this even go? Like over the last year or so, to basically being down 5%. Right? Look at how massive a pullback this would have been through this, 3 month time period. And I can pretty much guarantee you at the time, everyone thought that we were going into recession, that we were in a bubble, so on and so forth. And now you don't ever see anyone talking about the dip of, well, not this dip, the dip, at the end of 2008, 2019, it's just been forgotten. And this is true if you just you continue to go back. Like you can see these dips all the time throughout the market. Where if we go here in August of 2015, and then you go back to August of like 2014, right? If you had invested in August 2014, like you actually would have been down, right? You would have lost money on these dips, where the market just kind of fell off the cliff in a span of a few days. So I think what I'm saying is these dips are pretty normal, and oftentimes they kind of happen whenever you have some fear going on in the market. And again, we can see more dips here through 2022. So when I look at my portfolio and I see stuff like this, right, where at one point I was basically up not 60% year over year because I have a position here in my international brokerage account, but I think this is probably like 40% year over year at the peak. And then now I'm down to like basically 20% year over year. I've given a lot of my gains back. I just try and keep perspective that if my positions play out, it literally doesn't matter. I wasn't planning to sell any of these at a lot of the prices that they were at here, and I didn't sell because I didn't. Some of them I thought were kind of expensive, like Hood I thought was a little bit expensive, but a lot of them I still thought were within realms of reasonable price. And over the long term, I just believe that these things are going to play out. So that's just kind of my thoughts in terms of the importance of perspective. The other thing I find kind of interesting is right now I'm up, it's not 8% year to date. Again, when you account for my other positions, probably like 5 or 6% year to date. But what's interesting is if this hadn't gone up like this and then gone down like this, and it just kind of had gone here after Q1 earnings, I probably would have been pretty happy. I would have been like 5% returns for the year. Hell yeah, like it's pretty good. But because you have this, up and down, it definitely changes kind of the emotional perspective of things. So I just think these are things to have important context on. When I look at a lot of my positions, I just can't think of any really good reason to sell them. A lot of these, I'm like, look, regardless of what happens with these tariffs, I think long term these companies will excel. I think they'll be okay. And I think even if we have a choppy year and I start going from being up for the year to down for the year, my response isn't going to be to sell. It's going to be to continue to average down and buy into these positions. So at this point, VU's down like 1.5%, 2%. I'm up a few percent. So overall, it's kind of a decent start to the year. This is just the reality of owning microcaps, though. When the market is up, like if the market turns around and it goes into a bull market, if it market starts going up, like the market goes up like another 5% this year, I'm going to go up like 10, 15, 20%, and that's just the reality of these positions. And of course, the market goes down another 10%. I'm not going to go down 10%. I'm going to go down like 20 or 30%. And I might even, lose gains I've had, give back all the gains from the last year, which is possible. So just some thoughts. I think it's important to continue to invest into this market. I think it's a mistake to panic and sell. And I think it's also important to focus on the big picture and not get caught up in what everyone is saying kind of online. I mean, you look at this, right? The market basically, like I lost 5%. I lost all my gains for the year, probably about here. And then I gained them all back. And you know what happened here? Uh, Jerome Powell gave a talk for the Fed and he said the economy is strong. Literally, that's what he said. So a lot of times I'm not focusing on the noise. I'm focusing on what's actually I see happening in the economy. So the economy is still strong. Every big tech just reported solid earnings. A lot of them gave solid guidance. Yeah, they're not going to grow 20% year over year anymore, but they're still going to have solid growth. And a lot of them are seeing a lot of growth within AI and their cloud computing. So in general, I think things are okay. I will continue to use my excess money to invest and build a position into this market. And I guess, last thing in perspective, it's just kind of interesting how when you look at it like from this perspective, if I had fallen asleep and woke up, 3 months later, I'm like, oh, I'm down 3%, you just don't care as much. It's really just when you stare at your screen all day and you start seeing things go down that you kind of panic. So in general, year-over-year returns are solid. Market's a bit jumpy, but that creates opportunity. So yeah, just some thoughts.